Hi, my name is Amber, and welcome back to Facetly, where we talk about all things women, but we're not just for women. My name is Amber, and I'm having a hot flash. That's not why I came here to talk about. I am actually. I should have brought my little fan, but the reason I'm here is because I wanted to talk a little bit about what I am dealing with. I am going to be getting back to my normal videos, which I have two so far. And my last video was about perimenopause in the workplace, and my follow-up video to that is coming, and it's going to be about the legislation that we have in the United States that will help a lot of women in different states, and just kind of keeping people updated on that. But I'm here today for two reasons. One, because I felt it was important to post a video. I really am passionate about women and women's issues and things that I would love to have known as a younger woman, things that I want to teach to the next generation, and also just kind of creating a community of solidarity amongst us, just to so we all know that we're not alone. um, and the channel will not just be about menopause, perimenopause. It's going to be a lot of different things. But one thing I am going to say, and right now my focus is very much perimenopause related because I'm going through it. And when I say I'm going through it, I not only mean I'm going through perimenopause, but I'm going through it. Okay. It's been a long, rough road. And because we're all different, my symptoms might be less severe than a lot of other women out there. The fatigue that I have, the increase in the intensity and duration of my migraines, the body aches, the oh my goodness, the night sweats, the hot flashes, all of that stuff. It's y'all, it's been a lot, and so my goal is actually to post every single day. I'm saying that now because if you're watching this, I hope you're holding me accountable to it. If you're watching this later after I posted several videos, um, maybe you can even look back and see, did she post every day? I became inspired to do this because there's a YouTuber that I watch, and her name is Glow Atanmo. And I love her channel. Her channel is just amazing. She's doing a lot of the things at, I think 14, 15, 16 years my junior, that are so inspiring. And so if she ever comes across this video, I just want to tell you, Glow, thank you. Thank you so very much. But I also, she gives a challenge to post every day for 100 days. And so that's what I plan to do. And I'm going to do it despite the fact that there are many days when I just don't feel prepared. I'm really, really tired. I might be in a lot of pain. Um, the atmosphere in my home, I have grandkids here right now, and they're young, so they're very energetic, very boisterous. But I want to, regardless of what's happening in my home, in my life, I want to post. So barring, God forbid, any kind of, serious health issue, that's what I'm going to be doing. So with that big old long introduction, I thought it would be a good time to talk about leaving my job and how a little bit later on I learned that perimenopause may have had a little bit, not fully, but a little bit something to do with it. So I used to work for the federal government. This was back in, I started there when I was 40. So in 2016. And it was a job that I had been dreaming about. I mean, I had been applying for the federal government for decades, ever since I was a teenager. And they had this program called the summer hire program, I think it was. And so based on your grades and everything, you could get a job, like as an intern or whatever. And it was paid. It was really, really cool. And I used to think that was just something that I wanted to do because, my dad, he's an Air Force veteran. And he also worked at the base after he got out of the military. My mom, she worked at that base for decades. She actually retired from that base. And so, I always looked at my dad with respect and my mom with respect. And it was just like, wow, that's something that I want to do, work for the government. I can't get in the military, but I'd like to work for the government. And that's what I did. It didn't happen until I was 40. So once I got there, though, it was really interesting because I was having a really difficult time um, maintaining, keeping the information, the training and stuff that I was learning in my head. I would take just pages and pages and pages of notes. And because I later on found out I have ADHD as well, but there is this perfectionism aspect to some of the things that I do. I'd write things down, write them down, keep the notes, but it was more difficult for me than I was expecting. And so, it took longer for me. This was an internship program, by the way. And it took longer for me to really catch on to the ideas that I thought I should just be, catching, catching, catching. I was, for the most part, when I was growing up, I was a good student. I was in gifted and talented education. And so it just seemed like this is odd. But I actually blamed it on a traumatic brain injury that I had back when I was 27. I had a stroke. And so I was thinking, well, maybe it's just because, as I'm getting older, the effects of the stroke, they're kind of, messing with my brain a little bit. I didn't think nothing about perimenopause. But I was there for 8 years. And even though, I was getting raises, I was actually, I'd say promoted, but I was given more responsibilities. So it was like, okay, your supervisors, your peers think you're doing a good job, Amber. So what's going on with you? Why is it that you can't get this stuff straight? And not only that, it was just like I was so tired all the time, just dragging myself to work. As the years went on, and the migraines were getting worse and the body aches were getting worse. And I was having night sweats. Didn't know that's what they were at the time, but I was having night sweats. And it was just like, okay, something's off here. But again, I didn't think perimenopause. I didn't. I, it wasn't even the first thing that came into my mind because of, other health issues besides the prior stroke. I really was just thinking that, okay, there's just, it's probably just another one of those Amber things that just happens. So ultimately, after the panini in 2020, a lot of us were permitted to work from home. And that was actually one of the biggest blessings I think that I had experienced because um, mornings are like my worst time. Trying to get up and get my brain going and get moving, it was always so, so, so difficult. And also, because I was at home and my kids are grown, the amount of distractions that I'd have at home were minimal compared to what I would have in the office where, you've got your coworkers and they're hanging out, they want to come chat, and, it's not a big deal. But when you're somebody who is, you know, like I said, I didn't know at the time, but ADHD, had the traumatic brain injury, and also going through perimenopause, didn't know at the time. But all of those things kind of add up to where it's really hard to stay focused and it's really hard to get back on track. So, anyway, in 2024, so yeah, we've been able to work from home primarily all the way up until 2023, I think. And in 2023, they were, starting to require people to come back into the office at least, I believe, once a week. Because of different, different things that I'd been dealing with medically, I requested an exemption, a medical exemption. My doctor wrote the note and everything, and I had it approved through the base, the Air Force base I was working at, had it approved through their disabilities office. So they basically said, okay, yeah, you can continue working from home. And so I did. I didn't have to come back into the office. But and because of that too, my cubicle was delegated to somebody else who was going to have to come into the office, you know. So anyway, I had no cubicle anymore. I had no specific station, and I was like, okay, good. I can work from home. This is great, and it was working out. So in 2024, it was around August. No, yeah, I think it was actually around August, or maybe it was late July of 2024. Things had changed, and the government was basically saying, hey, all government workers need to come back into the office, period. And even though I had the medical exemption, they were saying, okay, this isn't going to count anymore because it can't just be approved at your workplace's level. So the base level, what is it? Brain. Oh my goodness, brain fog. The base level approval that I had would have to be re-examined and reapproved at the bigger organization level, which was in Ohio. And so with that, I was like, okay, this isn't fair. But they told me you have to come back into the office. I had to remind them, hey, I don't have a cubicle. I experience vertigo. I have frequent migraines, and it was all really, really brushed off as like, oh, well, you know, you'll have to find somewhere to sit. We've got, you know, these open desks called hot desks. You could sit there. You know, oh, I have migraines too. So blah, blah, whatever. But it was, oh, I had already taken some, you know, some days off just to kind of recuperate. And during that time off, I was developing a really bad migraine. Now, this is one kind of migraine I hadn't had before, except for when I'd had the stroke. And I was starting to experience like some real severe vertigo. The vertigo that I'd had before because of the stroke, it was actually, I wouldn't say it was manageable, but it was very short in duration. So I wouldn't have like an all day sort of thing. I would know, like, oh, okay, well, you know, if it was before my period, usually that would start up. Or if I was really sick, I'd get the vertigo, or if I hadn't had enough rest. There were just a few triggers that would trigger that. This one, though, in August of 2024 was very different. And it lasted for a couple of days. And it was like, I think I might be having another stroke. But it felt very different. The only symptom was that severe vertigo. So, anyway, all that to say this, at that point, I just felt like I have to leave. I have to leave my job. I can't stay here anymore. And to be honest with you, it may sound dramatic, but I was kind of at the point to where I kind of thought, what if I pass away at work? Stress, you know, vertigo, whatever. I have, you know, I didn't know what was happening to me. And so I did, you know, I notified my boss, and my boss was like, no, 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 please stay. And, you know, I was just like, I don't feel like my situation, my medical situation is being taken seriously. And even if I would have tried for, and this is just in my mind, this is not something I actually said to my supervisor, this part, even if I would have tried to get like a, what, leave of absence, or a, oh gosh, I can't think of what they're called, like disability leave or something like that, it would still be me coming back to this very, very confusing and stressful environment. And so I just, without a backup plan or anything, I left and I quit. And I am, it's 2026 now. You know, I haven't been employed since August of 2024. Um, I had to cash out my retirement, which is gone at this point. I'm actually receiving social services again, so I get SNAP benefits and also Medi-Cal. And on top of that, you know, my son and his family, which I don't know if you can hear one of my grandchildren in the background, they've been here for, oh goodness, not quite a year. They came here in May. And so that has been helpful because he's been able to take care of the utilities and stuff for me. And, that's been a real blessing. So, anyway, that's the backstory about how I left my job. But it wasn't until I actually started doing the research for the video that I had posted a few months ago talking about women quitting their jobs due to perimenopause that I started thinking, okay, wait a minute. Maybe even though I had existing migraines, I've already been diagnosed with chronic migraines. That was decades ago. And also the vertigo from the stroke that I had, which was also decades ago. Um, those were already things that I've been dealing with. But the way the female brain and her body systems communicate with each other and are affected by hormone levels is absolutely astonishing. So, I do believe that the perimenopause, the drop in my hormone levels, so my estrogen, my progesterone, excuse me, are actually partially to contribute to the increase in migraines, the increase in vertigo, the brain fog, the feeling when I was at my job where I just felt like I could not learn what I was supposed to be doing. And so it's going to affect women in so many different ways. And, I just want to say to you, if you are out there, if you are thinking about leaving your job, if you are frightened because you don't know what's going on with you, first off, see your doctor. List your symptoms. What you've been going through, what's making it difficult for you to deal with your job. Talk to your doctor and make sure that you have that list, because a lot of us may be afraid to talk to the doctor about it. Or if you're in this phase of life, the brain fog, it affects a lot of us. And so having a list at least will be helpful in trying to, get your thoughts together and your words out. And talk to your doctor about, if there's anything that they can do for you, whether it's a hormonal treatment, whether it's some supplemental or some supplements, dietary changes, and things like that that might be helpful for you. But also talk to your doctor about, hey, is there something I can request from you, whether it's a doctor's note or some kind of documentation to say, okay, this is what my patient's going through, and present that to your employer at work. Even if they don't have anything in place right now that you know of that would be helpful or protective for women in your stage of life, our stage of life, still, get that documentation and talk to your employer. Talk to your employer. Um, and just, make sure that as you're talking to your employer, document your conversations, okay? If you have email, follow up with an email. Do these things because it is important. We're not going to act like ageism, age discrimination, or even gender discrimination doesn't exist in the workplace anymore. It's still there. But you do want to protect yourself. That's why I say go to your doctor, talk to your doctor, and get documentation if you can. Even if you don't get documentation, there should be some kind of documented history of your visit. I personally have Kaiser, and so I'll get like an after visit summary, and that you can get it on paper or even in the app. I'm sure most of these healthcare providers, they have apps that you can use and you can access your medical record and stuff like that. And when you talk to your supervisors or you talk to HR, whoever it is you need to speak to about your situation, just like I said, make sure that you are even starting off in email form, or some way that you can get some kind of information out there to show that, hey, I have brought this up with my employer. And if they respond back to you, sometimes they're slick and they won't respond in writing. Sometimes they're slick like that. But if they don't respond back to you in writing, then you can just follow up with an email. Hey, per our conversation on X date, when I had told you about X, Y, and Z, and you told me X, Y, and Z, this is what we're going to do. And make sure you send that email. Keep a copy of the sent email. Make sure you put a read receipt on it, or actually a sent and a read receipt on it. So that way it's just, even if they don't respond to you, it's going to show that it was read, or even that it was delivered. Sometimes they won't click on, send a read receipt, whatever. That's fine. But just document your stuff, but truly advocate for yourself. That's the thing. I feel like if I would have known a little bit more about what was going on with me, I maybe wouldn't have quit my job so abruptly. I maybe would have understood a little bit more about, okay, you're not necessarily having a stroke, but you are going through something that's very challenging health wise. That's not to say I would have stayed much longer, because with these, I don't know if they're like a vertigo, vestibular migraine. I have no idea what they are. But with this going on, it would put me in bed, put me down for like, over a week. And I don't know too many jobs that are willing to allow you to just be off work periodically for a week on end, And I wouldn't know, there's no trigger, there's no warning, they just hit. But anyway, this video has been long enough. So that's my story. Again, two things. I'm going to be posting every single day, regardless of the situation. And another thing is I am going to be posting that video about the laws and legislation that have changed to protect women in midlife with our hormonal changes in the United States. I will be posting that soon. So I love you all. Take care, and I hope you have a beautiful and blessed day. Thanks for watching Fastly. Be sure to click the bell if you want to be notified when I post my videos every day. Remember, every day. And also subscribe if you haven't already, and just hit that like button. It's free, and I appreciate you. Bye now.